How myths shape our reality today. Why do you love the stories you love? Why do you react to situations in certain ways? What if I told you that some of your most personal choices, your deepest beliefs, aren't entirely your own? A restless farm boy on a desert planet hits a call to a galactic adventure. It's a mythological blueprint known as the monomyth, or as it's more famously known, the hero's journey. This concept was brought into the spotlight by scholar Joseph Campbell, who dug into myths from every corner of the world and found a startlingly universal pattern. Every major life challenge, starting a new career, moving to a different city, overcoming a personal demon, is its own mini-hero's journey. It's a pattern of struggle, growth, and transformation we all get intuitively. The reason these stories keep getting told, from ancient scrolls to modern cinemas, is that they are stories. Chaos is darkness, the sea, and the monstrous unknown. This ancient story didn't just explain the weather. It became the core justification for civilization itself. Kings and pharaohs weren't just rulers. They were the human avatars of Marduk or Zeus, the divine agents whose job was to hold back the forces of chaos that were always threatening to tear society apart. Laws weren't just rules. They were sacred walls that kept the darkness out. In nearly every ancient culture, there was a realm of the dead. The Greek Hades, the Egyptian Nuit, the Norse Helheim. Her journey represents a direct confrontation with the darker parts of life loss, grief, and mortality. When she finally returns to the surface, she brings with her a new wisdom, a deeper understanding of the cycles of life and death. The Sumerian goddess Inanna goes even further. She descends to the underworld, is stripped of all her power. As we've seen, it's a bit more complicated than yes or no. They are living, breathing operating systems running in the background of our world, shaping our entertainment, our politics, and our inner lives. They're so powerful because they speak to timeless human hopes, fears, and dreams. If this look into the hidden architecture of reality resonated with you, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button for more explorations into the stories that shape our world. Next time, we're tackling the modern myth of the hustle and uncovering its surprising ancient origins. You won't want to miss it. The challenge, then, is to become aware of these invisible scripts. Ancient societies had shamans and priests to interpret their myths. Today, we each have to learn to think critically about the stories that we're living by. The movies we binge watch are built on the timeless blueprint of the hero's journey, a myth that gives us a pattern for our own life struggles. We can appreciate our favorite films on a much deeper level, question the political narratives we're sold, and understand our own journey with far more clarity. The myths of the past don't have to control us. If we understand them, we can harness their power and just maybe begin to write our own. Our societies are structured around an ancient battle to create order from chaos, a story that has justified rulers and laws for thousands of years. And our very understanding of our own minds, our path to mental health and self-awareness, is a modern-day retelling of the descent into the mythical underworld, and is killed only to be resurrected and return more powerful than before. These stories taught a vital lesson. You can't find true wisdom and transformation in the sunlit world alone. It requires a descent into darkness. But these places weren't just about the afterlife. They were symbolic landscapes of the soul, and taking a trip there was a profound psychological test. They give us a map for navigating our own lives and assure us that transformation is always possible. Your therapist is your guide, like Virgil leading Dante through the circles of hell. The goal isn't to destroy the demons or monsters inside your repressed memories, your fears, your shadow self, but to confront them, understand them, and integrate them. Like Inanna and Persephone, you're meant to return from this inner darkness not just healed, but transformed, with a more complete and resilient sense of who you are. The journey to the underworld isn't a myth we left behind. It's a psychological process we are encouraged to undertake every single day. It's baked into our political language, which often frames opponents not just as people with different policies, but as agents of chaos who threaten to ruin everything. The pioneers of psychoanalysis, Sigmund Freud and Carl Jung, saw these ancient myths not just as stories, but as maps of the human mind. For them, the underworld was a perfect metaphor for the unconscious, that hidden place in our psyche that holds our repressed fears, secret desires, and traumas. Freud famously named the Oedipus complex directly after a Greek myth. Jung went even further, building his entire theory of archetypes' universal symbols like the hero, the mentor, and the shadow on the idea that these mythic patterns are part of a collective unconscious shared by all humans. Huge pop culture franchises like the Marvel Universe or Game of Thrones act as our modern mythologies, complete with their own gods, heroes, and moral lessons. So what modern story do you think will be remembered as a defining myth 100 years from now? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'm really curious to see what you all come up with. It is the engine behind the tough on crime narrative that paints criminals as monsters to be purged. It even shapes our corporate culture, where visionary CEOs are hailed as heroes bringing order to a chaotic market. This ancient story gives us a simple, powerful way to look at a complex world. There's a constant threat of chaos, and we need a strong, ordering force to protect us from it. Whether we see it or not, we are still living inside that foundational myth, always searching for our own Marduk to keep the monsters at bay. So next time you're watching a superhero origin story, remember, you're not just watching a movie. You're taking part in one of the oldest, most powerful storytelling traditions in human history. He realized that countless ancient tales, from Odysseus trying to get home to King Arthur, pulling a sword from a stone, all follow the same core stages. We talk about facing our demons, exploring our shadow self, or digging deep to find who we really are. Why do we instinctively frame psychological healing as a journey into a dark, hidden place? Have you ever noticed how obsessed we are with control? We create massive legal systems. We elect powerful leaders. We build rigid social hierarchies. We tell ourselves it's for safety or efficiency, but the root of this impulse is much, much older and far more primal. It comes from a foundational myth that predates almost all others, the great battle between order and chaos. A quiet computer hacker learns the world is a simulation and that he's the one. For our ancestors, the world was a scary, unpredictable place. Storms, droughts, and plagues weren't random acts of nature. They were seen as terrifying expressions of a primordial, destructive chaos. To make sense of it all, they told stories. In ancient Mesopotamia, the epic Enuma Elish tells of the world's creation as a violent war where the hero god Marduk kills Tiamat, a monstrous goddess of saltwater chaos. From her body, he builds an ordered cosmos. In Greek mythology, Zeus and the Olympians overthrow the chaotic and unpredictable Titans to establish a new, structured rule from Mount Olympus. For the Norse, the world hangs in a fragile balance, always threatened by the chaotic giants of Jotunheim. An orphaned boy finds out he's a wizard and has to defeat an all-powerful sorcerer. Star Wars, The Matrix, Harry Potter, not to mention The Lion King and The Hunger Games. On the surface, they're wildly different stories, but their narrative DNA is practically identical. So why does this one story structure have such an unbreakable grip on us? That they're actually echoes of ancient stories, invisible scripts written thousands of years ago that are still pulling the strings of your modern life. These aren't just fairy tales about gods and monsters. They are the invisible architecture of your reality. They might hesitate at first, but a mentor figure, an Obi-Wan Kenobi, a Morpheus, a Dumbledore shows up to guide them. They cross a threshold into a strange new world, face a series of trials, make some friends, and confront their enemies. This all leads to a central ordeal, a kind of symbolic death and rebirth where they face their biggest fear. If they make it through, they claim a reward, a treasure, some wisdom, a new power, and start the road back home, forever changed by what they've been through. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on 3 ancient myths that are quietly shaping your life, from the movies you can't get enough of to the very way you think. By the end of this, you'll start seeing the hidden patterns that connect your favorite blockbuster to a story told around a campfire 3,000 years ago, and you'll understand yourself in a way you never saw coming. Let's kick things off with a question. Why do so many movies feel familiar? Think about it. The answer isn't some secret Hollywood formula. The pattern is remarkably consistent. The hero starts out in a normal, ordinary world, but gets a call to adventure that yanks them into the unknown. This isn't just lazy writing. It's a structure that connects with us on a deep, psychological level because it mirrors the fundamental human experience of life. All right, let's move from the stories we watch to the societies we build. The answer is hiding in the creation myths of ancient civilizations. This theme is everywhere. Order is light, sky, and consciousness. And this myth is still very much alive today. We've talked about how myths shape our movies and our societies. But what about the myths being created right now? Final question. Why is the language of therapy and self-help so full of metaphors about darkness and discovery? The answer comes from one of the most powerful and long-lasting myths of all, the journey to the underworld. Take the Greek myth of Persephone, who was pulled into the underworld by Hades. This mythological framework deeply inspired modern psychology. Seen this way, therapy becomes a modern, guided version of that mythic descent. So, are we really in control of our own lives? These myths aren't just quaint stories from the past. By recognizing these patterns, we can start to see the world with new eyes. Thanks for watching.